a great start. Also, if we can keep this 18 plus as well, and as always, never bet more than you can afford to lose. And we would always advocate responsible gambling here at OddsNow, and we believe in people looking into the risks involved with gambling before proceeding. Delighted to be joined by my co-host for this afternoon, Mr. Matt Hill, with a bit of renewed positivity as a Carlisle United fan.
I'm flooding with positivity, Gab, at the moment. 3 winners on last week's show. I can't remember the last time I got the hat-trick up. It would have been before Christmas, which there were quite big price ones as well. So it was really, really satisfying, and topped up by a Carlisle win at Morecambe, which sends me into the Easter bank holiday weekend with some renewed hope of a great escape. But that could
You've
be
got to win at Accrington, haven't you, Matt? That's the big one.
We have, I think, avoid defeat at Port Vale against Port Vale tomorrow, and beat Accrington, and I think we'll have given ourselves a real fighting chance going into the last two. But that's a big couple of ifs. So we'll see what the weekend brings. But no, it's nice to be at least going down fighting. And like I say, 3 really good winners on last week's show. I was delighted for Millwall, the Nap, to get it done at home to Middlesbrough. And then we had League One. I had a little bit of a flyer on draw half-time, Stockport full-time against Rotherham, which came in. And Sir Georgie Kelly did the business for me anytime, nodding home against Morecambe, 10-3, anytime goal scorer. So that was a 62-1 treble. For anybody that was placing ultimate faith in me, not many, I wouldn't imagine, but let's see if we can keep those good runs going. We'll dive in, but just for the first, if you're watching the OddsNow EFL betting show for the first time, just to give you a little rundown of how it works. Pretty simple. Myself and Gab, we take one game each from the Championship, League One and League Two, and make our pitch to you for why it is our best bet from that respective division. We'll have a little bit of chat about the teams involved, and sometimes we'll agree, sometimes we won't. So let's see how much agreement we've got on this week's show. Gab, I'm going to put you in to bat first this week, because I think I had the honours last week. I was delighted to see Millwall do a job for me last week, and you are hoping that they can keep the good times rolling here, because you're going to back them to win 2-0 away at Blackburn, which is 4-1 with William Hill. And I totally see the logic for this bet, but I'll let you first explain why this stood out to you.
Well, I betted against Rovers last week, but I haven't been blackburned by the experience. I'm not even a dad, but I'm still doing dad jokes.
Yeah.
But I think I'm still a bit apprehensive about Blackburn, even off the back of that victory at Luton last weekend. I'm not sure I'd be wanting to get with them. I think with Millwall, and I do actually mention this in my column, which is going to be out soon, Millwall's fixtures out of the 5 playoff candidates this season probably looks the most favourable, because they're facing 3 mid-table sides in Blackburn, Swansea and Norwich, and they're going to a Burnley side on the final day who will probably be promoted by then and possibly know whether the title's coming to Turf Moor or Elland Road. So I think that might end up sort of working in their favour as well. So Millwall, by the way, as a side note, you can still get them at 12 for the playoffs, even if you didn't follow me in an 80-1 back in January.
Shameless plug. Deserved as well.
Exactly,
it's looking a good price.
I really like Millwall. I think they've got a solidity about them. Josh Coburn in attack has played really well at Bramall Lane a couple of weeks ago. Mihailo Advanovic has been in one of the informed strikers in the second half of the season. And I also think it's looking like it's a low bar for the playoffs this year, isn't it, Matt? It might be that 70 points gets you in there. I think Millwall are capable of getting there. I fancy them to win at a Blackburn Rovers side who are out of the playoff equation.
Yeah, and you're backing them to win 2-0 here. I mean, Blackburn have not exactly been prolific in front of goal in recent times. I know they got that 1-0 win at Luton as well, but that was a smash and grab, really. I don't know if Luton had a great quality of chances, but they certainly had the more shots and the more of the balance of the game. So, I mean, Millwall as well. I do like this angle, and I'll be honest, we've got our football punters panel going up on the website later today as well, where we've got our team of experts answering the big betting questions ahead of the weekend. And I actually have followed you in a little bit somewhat here. I've gone for a slightly different angle. I've gone for a draw at halftime and Millwall to win by full time at 6-1. And I imagine it's similar reasoning to yourself here, Gab, that Alex Neil, very shrewd operator, as I kind of mentioned last week. And I read his comments in midweek about having a small squad. And he could say that we kind of have to find a way of staying in games early on, and then we can have a really good go towards the end. And I think that reflects in their results, because they've had a lot of late winners, haven't they, Millwall? And they keep a lot of clean sheets and quite low margin games. And yeah, I'm guessing this is the reasoning why you've gone for the 2-0 option, which looks massive at 4-1.
Yeah, also it's the solidity of this Millwall side as well. Jake Keeper, I think, has been one of the most consistent centre halves in the Championship over the last 7 or 8 years now, and he's just so reliable at the back. Like you mentioned, I like Alex Neil. I like the investment in some younger players. I like how they've freshened up the squad after Neil Harris. Kamil Negley came in January. Really impresses me. Tristan Kramer as well had a good first half of the season on loan at Exeter, and seems to have stepped up pretty nicely. Casper De Nore as well, a midfielder with some European experience alongside the local grit of Billy Mitchell in midfield. And then they've got a nice sort of balance out wide in terms of the industry and the quality of George Honeyman versus the raw athleticism of Imaku Adomo Imaki, who's very direct as well. So
easy for you to say.
I know, yeah, exactly. So yeah, I like Millwall. I think they're a bit underrated, and also quite surprised at the price as well. Like Millwall are priced, I think, at 23-10 for this one, which I think is a bit big considering the respective form of these sides. Bearing in mind, since January, only the top two have accrued more points in the last 3 months than Millwall. So there you go.
Yeah, and I think as well, like don't forget, Blackburn do come into this off the back of a victory, and they do have a good home record, but that they have wobbled a lot in recent times, and I wouldn't be that enthused by that 1-0 win over Luton last weekend. Like I say, I think they only had 3 or 4 shots in the game. So, and this is a really struggling Luton side. It's a completely different task taking on a playoff chasing Millwall. And I really like the angle there. So that's 4-1, Millwall to win 0 against Blackburn for Gab. And I will say he's gone a little bit safer with his other 2 picks, gone to the old double chance well, hasn't he? But we'll come on to that soon enough. I'm going to go for my Championship best bet, and I think Bristol City look a fantastic price here. They're playing Sunderland, a Sunderland side who are very, very settled, already in the playoffs. Automatics virtually gone, or might have even mathematically gone now. I'm not sure. But it's basically cast iron that Sunderland are going to finish in the playoffs, and it's probably going to be that 4th spot, which secures them a home second leg in the playoffs, which is going to be crucial, going back to the stadium and like you would think. And they've certainly got bags of talent, haven't they? I mean, I know myself and Gab were both keen on Sunderland from the very start of this season to go really well in the Championship. Unfortunately, I think the top 3 have just pulled away from them a little bit in the last couple of months, and maybe shown that there's a slight bridge between the two. But I think in terms of raw talent and young, exciting players, I think Sunderland are right up there with the best in the Championship. Now, the reason I want to go against them here, Bristol City being a best price of 7-5 at the time of speaking with 888 Sport, this is a Bristol City side that are firmly in the playoff mix themselves and could well find themselves playing Sunderland in the playoffs, but they have still very much got a job to do. They're in this cluster of 4 or 5 teams fighting for 2 spots, and this is a really, really important game for them. Whereas for Sunderland, I think we've seen very noticeable signs of a side almost preparing for the playoffs now. Their form has tailed off somewhat. I think there seems to be a little bit less bite in their performances. Like when I think of Sunderland at their best, they're all action. They're really, really intense pressing, quick attacking. I've not really seen that from them in recent weeks. I've noticed a lot of rotation from Regis Libri as well. He's already kind of gone on record and said the playoffs are our main concentration now, our main area of focus. And I think it's a very thinly veiled, let's not get any injuries. Let's not go crazy with the work rate at the moment. Let's just sort of keep ourselves ticking over and get ready for those big 2 or 3 games in May, which are ultimately going to decide their season or not. Now, I think that's created a little bit of frustration in some areas of the Sunderland fan base who maybe feel they're losing momentum going into this playoffs, but I actually think it's quite shrewd management, to be honest. You've got all these sort of young players that have had a high workload over the season. getting some rest into them and some rotation now, because ultimately, whether or not Sunderland beat Bristol City tomorrow, it is not going to impact whether or not they get out of the Championship. Whereas for Bristol City, it's a monumental game. They're at home as well. They really do need to go and win it. And I think at the prices 7-5, given the game state, and again, if these two meet in the playoffs, I'd probably want to be with Sunderland. I think they're a superior team. But in the context of tomorrow's game, I'm more than happy to get with Bristol City.
Yeah, I can understand with it. I think if it was shorter than 7-5, I wouldn't be going with it, just because I think there's a lot of validity in that truth about that with Sunderland, in terms of they are preparing for the playoffs, but they have also at the same time they've taken I think it's something like 13 points from the last 8 games. So it's not like they've capitulated and they're completely on the beach. They're still ticking over points at a reasonable rate. They've kept 3 consecutive clean sheets, 4 even. So there is still a solidity there, even if there isn't quite the same bite to their game. They kept 3 consecutive clean sheets and then they lost 1 at home to Swansea last weekend. So yeah, I think we're seeing a little bit more rotation with players like Harrison Jones getting an opportunity for Regis Lebris. And I think that's sensible, because you don't want to play players, that could do with a bit of a rest. So I can understand that. But yeah, I also wouldn't be. I think Sunderland will still be very competitive.
Yeah. All fair points. I guess I would look at the recent results from Sunderland and just question the motivation of some of the opposition, and certainly the form in the case of West Brom, who I think are wobbling quite badly at the moment. So I don't read too much into that particular result. But the 1-0 loss at Swansea. So what I will say, there's a lot of low margin encounters here. So we're probably not going to see a goal fest, which actually earlier in the season with Sunderland, you saw a lot of goal fests. It was all action at both ends, and that just sort of lends itself more to this theory for me that they're probably not going to run themselves in the ground to beat Bristol City here. And I really do think that Bristol City should be fired up for this. I saw Liam Manning saying that he wanted his team to give it a right good go and not leave anything to chance, and not finish the season feeling like they didn't give everything they could. So it was a bit of a rallying call, and I think, and I just think the motivational levels are the key for me here. And I think what we'll see tomorrow, if we see a replay of this game in the playoffs, it will be chalk and cheese. I really do think that this is, not a comparable set of circumstances at all. And I personally think that game state will prevail, and Bristol City will get the 3 points here. But we shall see. I don't like taking Sunderland on because, like I said, they are one of my favourites this season. I really do like them and hope they can get over the line in the playoffs anyway. But we'll move on to League One then, Gab. And little bit of success for me last week with the half-time, full-time selection here. So let's hope we can find some more winners in the third tier. Northampton, I said you've gone back to the well with double chance. You've also gone back to the well with one of your beloved teams here, I would say, Northampton. You just... you must have posters of Kevin Nolan up on the wall in the bedroom. When it comes to picking a team, but do you know what? I'm going to give you a bit of credit here because you're backing them double chance here at 13-10. And they're away at Charlton, who are obviously in a similar position, I suppose, to Sunderland. Now I described, looking very hard set for the playoffs, although there's still technically a bit to play for. But I looked at Northampton's recent results, and going toe-to-toe with some of the best teams. They got a 1-1 draw against Stockport, a 1-1 draw against Birmingham. They held Reading, who are a playoff chaser, to a 0-0 draw recently as well. So they do like to, put in a good showing against the sort of leading lights in the division. And you're expecting similar again here?
Yeah, well, they've accrued 14 points from their last 10 games, which I think is a really solid return for a team just to keep, keep the bottom four at arm's length. And I think that's a huge part of why they're hoping to finish the season with a little bit of comfort. And again, it's that defensive solidity that we're seeing from Northampton. And it's part of why I've sometimes gone for the clean sheet with the Cobblers. They won 4-0 at rivals Peterborough on Saturday the 5th, and then drew 0-0 with Reading last weekend. So again, there's a real solidity. Again, a really solid strong out of possession side. They've got Luke and Bet on loan from Manchester City in the middle of the back three. Perry in midfield has done really well since joining on loan in January alongside Terry Taylor. And I think, it's that January recruitment. Dara Costello as well on loan from Burnley. I think those signings have really strengthened the Cobblers for the second half of the season, and again, that's why they've kind of ticked over the points they need to stay up. And again, I think the fact that the other factor here, you've talked about permutations with regards to Sunderland. I think there's a similar case with regards to Charlton because they're 10 points above seventh, so they're almost certainly in the playoffs. They're 6 points off the automatic spots and unlikely to catch Wrexham. So I think there's a case for Charlton to maybe be guilty of the odd off day, or maybe even that a point, wouldn't be with the worst result for either team. There's an opportunity there for Northampton to possibly extend the gap to safety, to the gap to the drop zone to 6 points with 3 games to play. There's an opportunity for Charlton to possibly book their playoff spot depending on other results with a draw. So I think that there's a possibility that a draw wouldn't be the worst result for either side, and therefore there's a chance that Northampton can get a result and might be a bit underrated. I was surprised that Northampton were as big a price as they are, given that they've been competitive in terms of form.
Yeah, 13-10 then about Northampton to get the win or draw at Charlton. Yeah, and I suppose Charlton as well, they've shown a little bit of vulnerability in their last couple of outings, just about scraping past Cambridge last weekend and then having to come from 2-0 down to draw 2-2 at home to Lincoln. It must be difficult for these teams, mustn't it, when they're kind of starting to see their fate confirmed. And although there is still a theoretical chance, because they've got I don't even think it's necessarily the 6 point gaps, because I don't think 6 points in 4 games is out of the question. People and teams are nervy at this time of the year, and that can be bridgeable. It's the fact that they've got 3 teams above them, isn't it, in the race for that spot? So that you're not just needing 1 to slip up, you're needing 2 or 3 to slip up multiple times. So it is as good as confirmed for me that Charlton are going to be playoff bound, and I think that will have maybe it's all going to be about Nathan Jones, really, isn't it? And whether he thinks that he needs to manage the loads a little bit more. He doesn't strike me as the type of character that's going to sort of ease off until it's mathematically done. But I think these kind of feelings can filter into players quite. I mean, they're only human after all. The players will be having the same conversations as we are here, saying, looking like playoffs. And do you still have that level of motivation there against a Northampton side, which, as you say, very well drilled?
Tell you what, Matt, if the double chance is a bit too safe, I can give you a correct score.
Go on then.
Which
1-1?
is the 0-0 is 10-1. So
okay.
if there's a feeling that this game might be a bit of a stalemate and that a draw might just suit both teams for their respective ambitions, you can back the goalless draw at 10-1, bearing in mind that Northampton come into this game off the back of successive clean sheets.
See, I've bullied him into giving a bigger price there. That is a gentle nudging towards the bigger price. So there's your official selection, 13-10 for Northampton or the draw, and that's available with Betfair or the 10-1 0-0 correct score. You did have a 10-1 correct score a couple of weeks back. I seem to remember with Morecambe.
I did, Morecambe
Morecambe
against Swindon.
Yeah, so he's putting the correct score, 100% record on the line. Let's see if you can preserve it. Right, okay. My selection in League One also involves a promotion chasing side. I'm going to go for Wrexham to win both halves versus Bristol Rovers. This is 14-5 with Betfair. And you mentioned Wrexham already there, Gab. They are currently the team in command when it comes to sealing this automatic promotion spot alongside Birmingham. They sit on 82 points, just 1 clear of Wickham and 4 clear of Stockport. And as we mentioned, 6 clear of Charlton. But I think realistically, we have to say it's probably between Wrexham, Wickham and Stockport now, because Charlton's goal difference is quite a bit poorer than Wrexham's as well. So it's like a 7-point swing needed there. I'm kind of hinted this already. I'm kind of accepting Charlton are in the playoffs now. Wrexham will be looking at this thinking, it's in our hands. 4 wins here gets us up. To be honest, 3 wins may well do it for them as well, looking at the run-ins. And this is just an absolute must-win, isn't it? If you could pick a fixture for an automatic promotion chaser now, it would be Bristol Rovers at home. Unfortunately, Rovers are in all kinds of trouble. They've now lost 6 on the bounce. They've slipped into the relegation zone at the worst possible time. And now they have to try and arrest this slide by going away to what is going to be an absolutely rocking racecourse ground, you would think, with the Championship in sight. And I think the reason that we're getting such a big price here is because Wrexham generally don't blow teams away. They're quite a low-scoring outfit for a promotion chaser. Only 59 goals for them this season, which is, compared with Wycombe's 67, Birmingham's 73. So they've won a lot of games by fine margins as well. So I think that the market is probably expecting this to be like a Wrexham 1-0 or a Wrexham 2-0. But I actually think there's a little bit of a combination of factors here where we've got the finishing line almost in sight for Wrexham. And this almost becomes like a 4-game mini season now for me with them. They know that if they can find 4 results, they are there. They've done it, a triple promotion, unprecedented. And what a marvellous achievement it will be. Bristol Rovers, meanwhile, the confidence must just be on the floor. I think this is really, really tough to turn around now. You're slipping into it at the worst possible time. And for all the reasons given, I think this is a nightmare fixture for them. The way I actually see this game panning out is I think this might be one of the rare days where Wrexham do actually do it with a degree of comfort. I could see them scoring early. I'm not sure Rovers are in the kind of place where they're going to be able to launch a spirited comeback. And I actually think Wrexham could end up enjoying themselves and winning this one a little bit of a canter. So that's why I'm happy to play the win both halves. And I'll just stress, this is not to be winning at halftime and full time. You're basically splitting this football match into 2 separate games. So they need to win the first half and win the second half. So a 1-0 win in either half, resulting in a 2-0 full-time result, would be a winner. But if it was 1-0 at half-time and 2-1 at full-time, the bet will lose because technically the second half was 1-1. So you need to be understanding what you're backing there. But I think it's more than factored into the price here. Just shy of 3-1 with Betfair. This is one of the best teams in League One, taking on arguably at the moment the worst team in League One. So that's my thinking.
That's a great shout. I also think Wrexham's game is basically the wing backs get very high up and they rely on the firepower of Sam Smith and Jay Rodriguez. And it's certainly true that Wrexham have had certain games this season where they've missed, those players between the lines who can create something out of nothing and just open teams up. But that's probably against the sides that are very compact and difficult to prise open and defend their box very well. I think against the teams who aren't very well organised, and I think Bristol Rovers, that's true of them, because I think Inigo Calderon prides himself as an in-possession coach, but he's not got much experience about how to translate his ideas into the realities of senior football. I think Bristol Rovers can be quite easy to prise open. I don't think they're a very good out possession side, and therefore I would feel like with Wrexham they will just be able to cut them open purely through getting Ryan Longman and getting James McLean high up the pitch and getting crosses into the box and backing Sam Smith and Jay Rodriguez to do the damage. And they're not going to necessarily need loads of creativity in those central areas. So I think you could be onto something there, Matt. So I'm happy to endorse that one.
Thank you. Always good to get your endorsement. I'll just echo your concerns about Bristol Rovers out of possession as well. I think that just generally the approach of the coach, we see. I feel like this is a repeating pattern a little bit in the EFL in recent times with these coaches who are really, really wedded to an in possession style, and sometimes it's just not suitable for the level, and you do really need to be adaptable. I actually think one of the most desirable traits in a young manager is adaptability now. I think a lot of we see a lot of the old school managers ridiculed, but one thing old school managers do very well, in my opinion, is be able to adjust mid-game when it's not working, not be frightened to go away from a wedded style. And I think it's great to have a philosophy and stuff, but having the ability to realize when something isn't working and change it is a really desirable trait. And I think a lot of EFL managers that are just starting out maybe lack that adaptability at times. I think that's what we're seeing here a little bit with Bristol Rovers. Like you say, they really want to have the ball, but there's certain games in League One this season where they've just had no chance of winning the possession battle, like recent defeats to the likes of Birmingham and and teams up at the top. Then when they do have the possession last week against Exeter, I think they had 2 shots on target despite having 60% of the ball. And it's just like, well, even when you've got the ball, you're not really doing anything with it. And I feel it'd be very sad if they do end up dropping out of League One, because it feels like avoidable. It feels like an avoidable relegation to me. They've got quality in that squad. I had them as a mid-table team this year, and I'll be disappointed to see them go, because I think it's a great club. But I'm very, very worried about them at the moment, and I think this is another tough afternoon coming up for them here against Wrexham. So that's the selection then. Wrexham to win both halves against Bristol Rovers is 14-5. With Betfair. We'll finish by dropping into the basement tier in League Two. I'm staying loyal with my pick, but we'll come on to that later. Gab obviously is going with a double chance selection here. And obviously he's doing it to spite me as well, because he's put one of Carlisle's relegation rivals up, Accrington Stanley, who take on Salford, I believe. I'm right in saying that, Gab, who still harbour playoff aspirations themselves. They're kind of in a similar spot to Millwall, I suppose. They're going to need others to slip up, but theoretically, a strong finish could get them in there. Accrington fighting for their lives, 3-0 up and cruising against Tranmere Rovers last weekend before a dramatic late comeback to finish 3-3. I think the 102nd minute were Tranmere's equaliser. But you fancy them to bounce back and get a result here against Salford, Gab. Tell us why. They're even money, double chance with Scanner.
Yeah, I was torn about this one, Matt. I won't lie, because I do think that in terms of individual quality, I think Salford City have far more of it than Accrington Stanley. I think in terms of the collective value of their squad, they're worlds apart. But I do look at Salford a little bit like I look at Middlesbrough in the Championship, whereby they've definitely got the potential to play some great football at their best, and they've got some very capable players like Cole Stockton, who scored goals consistently. You've got Ben Woodburn, who's got some higher league sort of pedigree, Hakeem Alarkin. I think they've got some sort of players that, when they turn on the style, are a little bit above this level. But there's also this kind of something slightly enigmatic about Salford City, something that I don't quite trust, whether they can kind of grind out the results when they need to. I think they can be capable of turning in a stinker from time to time.
This is not the first time they've flirted with the playoffs, is it, Gavin? It rarely ends well.
Yeah, and they've been in a great position earlier in the season, and they've plummeted. And I look at them at the business end of the season. I'm just not, even with their pretty good form, I'm just not sure I trust them. And I feel like playing at home to a relegation contender.
Carlisle have got them at home on the last day, so just keep filling me with confidence.
Yeah, so again, I don't know how much I'm willing to trust Salford City. And with Accrington Stanley, yes, they conceded 3 late goals against Tranmere Rovers to draw a game where a win would have been huge for them. So there is a bit of a heartache of that, but the fact that they conceded 3 late goals, you'd think it would be down to bad defending or dealing with a set piece, but it's actually 3 brilliant strikes from just
3 goal of the season contenders in a 10-minute spell.
Yeah, and I almost think sometimes you can't really do an awful lot about that. And so I would say actually maybe there's a world where Accrington Stanley can build on the encouraging performance against Tranmere Rovers and actually take that into the trip to Salford City. I also think that the stick of avoiding relegation to the National League is more compelling than the carrot of trying to get into the playoffs to some extent, because relegation is like sort of life or death, whereas getting into the playoffs or not, it's not a bigger motivational thing. And so I'm willing to go with Accrington Stanley. I think there's a chance that they can build on that performance against Tranmere. And I like Sean Wiley. I think he's a great professional. I think he's been very important for Accrington Stanley this year. I like Farron Rawson. I think he's got a big forehead. He can head anything out of the box.
Always handy in League Two.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think, I'm not sure I'm willing to trust Salford City as well. So a little bit price-based as well. That's where I'm sort of just leaning towards a double chance with Accrington Stanley.
Okay, well, you could double your money if you agree with Gab that Accrington can get a result against Salford. The win or the draw for Stanley will return even money with Sky Bet. Yeah, I wouldn't argue too strongly, unfortunately. Obviously, for my loyalties, I'll be hoping that Salford can actually do Carlisle a favour there and keep Accrington in the mire. But yeah, Salford, not a team I trust at all. Like I think you summed it up well. Plenty of individual quality. When it all clicks, they look a good team. But there's a reason why they've really struggled to kick on since coming into League Two, I think, and there's been a lot of money thrown at the project. Bit of uncertainty about the future of that as well, I believe, with the class of '92 set to step back, and could be an interesting period coming up for them as a club. But yeah, in terms of this season, I think they come up just short of the playoffs, and yeah, I wouldn't be all that surprised if that selection comes in for you, Gab. Well, staying in the relegation battle, and yeah, I kept the faith in Georgie Kelly last week, and he did not let me down, did he? Rapidly becoming a cult hero at Carlisle United, and he bagged his third goal in 2 games in the 2-0 victory over Morecambe. A really, really good header, actually. And that is it. That is one of several key facets of Kelly's game, which has been imperative to Carlisle's sort of very late effort, a survival bid. And it may well prove too late still, but they come into this Easter weekend feeling rejuvenated, and they're hosting league leaders Port Vale at Brunton Park. I believe there's a reduced ticket offer to try and get a little bit of a full house in there and make it a good occasion. But obviously a big game for Vale as well, who moved top of the league with a really resounding success last time out as well. So plenty at stake for both sides. And I do think that, again, the market is just not yet factored in the importance of Kelly to this Carlisle side at the moment. He's priced as their 5th most likely goal scorer, but he is playing as a lone centre forward here with 3 goals in 2 games. And anyone that's not seen Georgie Kelly play, he's your typical target man, really, really good hold-up play, interlinking between the forwards. But most crucially, I think Mark Hughes has very clearly instructed him to just get himself in the box. Carlisle are putting the ball into the box a lot more, noticeably more in the last 2 games. And why not? They've got a target to hit there now. And I think you could definitely say with Carlisle's forward options this season, there hasn't been a lot of height in that box. And when the ball has gone in, it's invariably fell to a defender. But with Kelly in there, he's causing all kinds of problems. And I can't believe that they're still offering 4-1 on this man to score any time. I really do believe this is a League One centre forward playing in League Two here. And I think obviously you've got to factor in the opposition, but I don't think there's any outstanding team in League Two this season. I've got to say, I feel like they've all done their best to kind of throw it away. Walsall were obviously fantastic for 2/3 of the season, but are now really, really wobbling. And I think the other 5 of the top 6, I think they're much of a muchness. I think they're all good sides, but I think whoever the 3 that go up will probably feel like they've benefited from a bit of a weak League Two. And I think the 3 that don't will feel like they've missed a massive opportunity. And actually, I've written about this in this week's Punters panel as well. I feel like League Two this season is ripe for whoever gets into the playoffs in 7th and sneaks in. You know, it's a great opportunity because I feel like there could be a real bit of deflation among the other sides here that they've kind of squandered this opportunity. But that's me going off piste here. The selection is Georgie Kelly, Carlisle's centre forward, 4-1 to score any time against Port Vale. I do think that if they are the home side to get involved on the score sheet in this game, he is by far and away the likeliest source of a goal. And yeah, I think 4-1, you can pay to take your chance again.
Absolutely, yeah. How are you feeling about Carlisle? Do you feel like, I mean, because there was a game, wasn't there, where you lost 2-1 at Chesterfield, and they had 38 shots, and you had 4, and you're thinking, Jesus, how are you going into the running in a relegation dogfight and only having 4 shots when you desperately need to win? And to be honest, I was very close to writing you off. At that
with good
point.
reason. I think the bookies certainly did. I think Carlisle were as short as 1 to 1,000 to be relegated before these back-to-back wins. And look, there's still massively odds on to go down, but you know that a couple of wins can really change the mood around a club, and none more so than for Carlisle. An amazing stat which people will struggle to believe: these back-to-back victories that they've had was the first time they've won 2 games in a row for 99 games. So that was the longest streak of any club in England by about 60 matches. So it's been a long, long time since there's been this kind of positivity and confidence, both in the playing ranks and in the supporter ranks as well. And obviously, you're looking at a home to the league leaders as not an ideal fixture, but I do think that there's a bit of nerves there for Port Vale as well, because this on paper looks like an ideal fixture for them to stay at the top of League Two. But I don't know. I feel like if we hadn't had those 2 wins, everyone would be fearing a 4 or 5-0 defeat here, and a really, really dark day for the club. But actually, as it is, there's a lot of confidence, and I'm quietly confident we might get a result, actually. But yeah, my overriding feeling is we've just left it a little bit too late. We're still very reliant on other teams' results. I mean, you talked about Accrington versus Salford. We need Salford to get something there, really.
Yeah, and by the way, Matt, if Accrington Stanley were to win at Salford, and Carlisle were to lose to Port Vale, you're effectively
done and dusted. Yeah.
So it does show.
It is. It's all going to hinge. I mean, I've been going in with the mentality of we just need to match whatever Accrington do. So, like, if Accrington, do lose, then a loss is not a disaster, because we can erode that gap to 3 by winning at Accrington on Monday, and then 3 points behind with 2 games left. You've given yourself a chance, haven't you? So, I don't mind our fixtures. I think Accrington's fixtures are quite tricky, actually. I think they've still got to play Chesterfield, they've still got to play Walsall, so teams that have still got something to play for, you know what I mean? Whereas we've got to go away to Cheltenham, and at home to Salford on the last day, by which point I think Salford might be mathematically out of the playoff race.
And that might end up being.
I actually think if we can get through this Easter weekend still in the mix, we have got a real chance of pulling it off. But to be honest, it would feel a little bit. Either way, it's going to feel a little bit bittersweet. If we do stay up, it's going to be, well, how the hell did it get that? That close to going down with this squad. And if we do drop, I think it'll very much be a case of if they'd got rid of Mike Williamson even 5 games earlier, they'd have been fine.
Matt, I don't want to go too far off piece, but I do have one more question, which is just throwing it forward a bit. Obviously, so much is going to depend on the last 4 games. That's a given. Do you see a long-term future for Mark Hughes at Carlisle United? Because for the in-season, it's actually been quite simple. It's just managing the team, and it doesn't really matter whether he's a head manager or a head coach. His role doesn't really change. But going forward, he's going to have a relationship with, say, Rob Clarkson, who's the sporting director. Does Rob Clarkson stay, or does he leave off the back of 1 or 2 decisions that have been criticised this season? What's the how's things going to look?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. Unfortunately, it shouldn't be this way, and I might be wrong, but my suspicion is that what happens to the backroom staff and to Hughes is purely dependent on how the season actually finishes. And I feel like, I hope I'm wrong here, but I feel like there might not be as much change made if they manage to stay up as possibly needs to be done, because I'm not sure this new structure, which was brought in with great intentions by the owners, has really worked. I also don't think Mark Hughes will really want to commit to working under that structure. He's been Hughes is quite popular with the fans because although results didn't instantly pick up, he's been very honest with the situation he's inherited. He's called out the players' fitness levels. He's called out the squad being way overinflated and in certain areas, and made comments about having to train with almost 2 pitches and stuff. So
it's easier, isn't it? It's easier for him in a way to do that.
It's a free hit for him. He can say what he wants, can't he?
He's had his career, so he can say what he wants. Whereas if you're a young manager and you're trying to build your career, you've got to tread on eggshells a bit, haven't you?
But you know what? I think that Carlisle fans, overall, if Hughes did stay on, I don't think many would complain about it, because I think people feel like there's a lack of football experience and expertise in the club. And I think that Hughes and Hodges bring that at the moment. I think there'd be question marks asked under whether he's the man long term. But I think for the situation that he's come into, he's acquitted himself very, very well. He's built up a good rapport with the fans. Why not,
I'd have a conversation with him about him possibly moving upstairs.
Going upstairs. I think that'd be unanimously what people would want. but I don't know if he's ready to do that. He always talks about the buzz of being on the touchline on a Saturday and stuff. I feel like with Mark Hughes, it's a little bit like he just loves it, and it doesn't really matter what the level is as long as he's there involved. I think so.
Well, on his 80th birthday, he'll be managing in the North.
Honestly, I would not be surprised, but I got to be honest, I've been quite impressed with the way he's gone about it, and credit to him. He's given them a fighting chance, and let's just see how it goes. But I wouldn't be opposed to him staying on in either division, to be honest, Gab, but I don't know if that's a unanimous opinion.
Right, let's finish off on the Hills Hot Shots first of all. These are your selections.
I hope they're as hot as last week. Yeah, I go for Bristol City to beat Sunderland side, who may have one eye on May's playoff games. I think 7-5 there. They are drifting a little bit, Bristol City. I'm hoping to get a bigger price. I've not pulled the trigger yet, so I'm hoping the game might get out to like 6-4, which I think would be even more attractive. Wrexham to win both halves versus Bristol Rovers, who are in absolute free fall. Wrexham with the chance to go within touch of distance of the Championship. That's 14-5 with Betfair. And Georgie Kelly, Sir Georgie, will keep the faith 4-1 any time against Port Vale tomorrow for Carlisle. My best bet there would be Wrexham to win both halves versus Bristol Rovers. I don't know if you agree, Gab. I got the vibe you maybe do.
Yes, I would go. I think that's the pick here. That's the pick. I think Wrexham might get an early goal. I think they'll finish it off in the second half.
Yeah, I agree. Let's have a look at yours, and I'm trying to think. So you've got Millwall to win to 0 versus Blackburn at juicy 4-1 with William Hill there, and then a couple of double chance selections. You did give an honourable mention for the 0-0 draw in Northampton versus Charlton, which is 10-1 for more adventurous punters, but it's a 13-10 about Northampton or the draw versus Charlton at Betfair, and the same Accrington or the draw versus Salford at even money with Sky Bet. If you're asking me for my favourite one, would be Millwall, actually. I do think that they're I feel like they're a bit big just to win that game. I think you said similar. They're like between 2-1 and 5-2 to get the win there. I think that's a big price in itself. And Alex Neil, like I said, has been very open with the fact that he's got a small squad. He's trying to stay in games and nick them late, and they're doing that very effectively. So I think that 4-1, it's got a live chance. Would that be your nap, or would you lean more towards Northampton?
Yeah, well, what I would say, I would go with Northampton. I know I'm a bit of a
cobbler.
I have
been, cobbler.
I know, honorary cobbler. I would go with Northampton at 13-10 as my nap with a double chance, just because they've only lost 7 games since Kevin Nolan took charge around Boxing Day. I think that shows real defense. I think. I don't have the exact stats to hand, but I think it's about 25 games, that kind of period. I think that's a really solid return. So to only lose 7 games in that period. So I think the fact that they do that so consistently to avoid defeat, and the fact that Charlton are kind of in that point would do us just over into the playoffs. I think Northampton will avoid defeat at the Valley.
Okay, I like it. Well, some great picks on this week's show. I hope you enjoyed it. We will stick the replay of the show up on the OddsNow YouTube channel. So while you're there, if you could hit that subscribe button and give it a thumbs up, that is massively appreciated as well. Gab has penned his latest column. He does a weekly column for us on oddsnow.com. That'll be going up this afternoon, and it's taking a look at the Championship playoff race as well. Now, I will just say, we've already said in this show, Gab put 80-1 about Millwall making the playoffs up on his column a couple of months ago. Quite a lot of Millwall fans actually responded to that, saying absolutely no chance, Gab. What a ridiculous shout. But I wonder if they feel the same way now. If you are a Millwall fan and you're watching, let us know what you're thinking about these playoff chances. Have they got a chance that you're about between 9 and 12-1 to get in there now? So strange things have happened. But yeah, please do keep with us at OddsNow. Give us a follow at OddsNow _ on Twitter. And we'll be back again next week, Gab, won't we, to do it all again?
We certainly will. Thanks for watching, everyone, and we'll see you again very soon.